In today's video, we are taking a look at the latest NHL trade rumors. Could we possibly see a fit with John Klingberg heading to the Toronto Maple Leafs? Plus, could Max Domi be on the move once again, possibly to Boston? Also, what might Tampa Bay be looking to do ahead of the NHL trade deadline? Plus, we also have news from the NHL waiver wire with the Montreal Canadiens making a claim. We have a potential return for Eric Staal. We'll discuss what he's up to now. And we also had comments from Bobby Clarke with the Philadelphia Flyers, absolutely tearing former GM Ron Hextall to shreds on a recent podcast. We'll discuss those comments and what it might mean coming up next. Welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of NHL news and rumors to talk about here today. First up, we get news from the NHL waiver wire. The Montreal Canadiens have put in a claim. The Wild had Rem Pitlick on waivers, a center/right winger, 24 years old, on a one-year deal, pending RFA. Pretty cheap contract with a decent player who's actually pretty versatile. Montreal picks him up, which I think is a good pickup for them, good claim. He's right now this year, he's at 11 points in 20 games played. Just kind of got squeezed out of the lineup in Minnesota and required waivers. So I think Minnesota probably didn't really want to lose him, but they kind of were stuck with a roster move that they had to make there. But Montreal picks him up, and that very well could turn out. I mean, it's low risk. They only have him for the rest of the year. If it works out, they can consider keeping him. But really, overall, I think that's a pretty decent claim there by the Montreal Canadiens. Now, we also found out that young defenseman Bowen Byram of the Avalanche is taking a leave, and it's called a personal leave, but it's somewhat medically related. Byram had been out earlier with concussion, made a return. I believe he played 4 or 5 games and appeared to be healthy, but apparently he's been having some stuff going on, having some recurring things that appear to be concussion symptoms, and it's just not right. Apparently he had a long chat with his parents and the team and just decided that he needs to take a break and really try to clear some of these symptoms. The young man's a dynamic talent, a real top prospect, a really potential stud defenseman here for the Avalanche, but he's ran into a lot of concussion issues early, which can be a big deal for his long-term future health. And we'll see where this goes. Hopefully he can get everything cleared and make a comeback, but certainly, his long-term health right now is more important, especially if he's starting to have any symptoms creep back in. It's better that he take care of this now, and we'll see. So even though he's, technically in a personal leave, it's pretty much injury-related, and we hope that everything can be okay here for Byram. It was a bright future here in the NHL. As I mentioned, we also have a potential comeback in the making here for Eric Staal, who has not played this year. He has signed a professional tryout agreement with the American Hockey League team, the Iowa Wild, who's the affiliate to Minnesota. Of course, Eric Staal's been living in Minnesota since he played there. So he's attempting to actually make the Canadian Olympic team since he's not under NHL contract right now. So we've seen a few other players do this as well for an opportunity to get some game action in since they haven't played. So this is going to be a situation where we'll likely see him named to Canada's Olympic team when they make that announcement, which I believe is sometime here in the next week. I don't know the exact day right off, but I know it's coming soon that they're going to be doing that. He's expected to play a couple of games this weekend and go from there, but at least it gets him a little bit of game action. We'll see after the Olympics if he's going to make an NHL return or not. Kind of difficult to say. We don't really know what the future holds, but certainly a long-time NHL veteran and Olympic veteran likely playing for Canada at the Olympics. We should have names of a few other players too here in the coming days. I know for Team USA, I know they're going to have at least a few younger players. Like I know Jake Sanderson, top prospect for the Senators, who was a captain of USA at the World Juniors. I believe Brendan Brisson, also, of course, his father, Pat Brisson, top agent in the game. Of course, he's a Vegas prospect. He's in the mix for Team USA. I know on Canada's side, I believe Mason McTavish might be heading over as well as Owen Power. So there should be a good mix of some veteran players that are not NHL affiliated as well as some top young talent as well. So we'll have to wait and get the official word here next week once those rosters become public knowledge. Now, as I mentioned, we also had some interesting comments from, of course, Bobby Clarke, who works for the Philadelphia Flyers. Been there a really long time. He's recently made an appearance on the Cam and Strick podcast, which is Cam Jansen and Andy Strickland, talking about former GM Ron Hextall, and he did not have much good to say and basically tore him to shreds. He said that Ron Hextall essentially alienated himself from everybody else, didn't really want to listen to the scouts, really kind of just tore his tenure as GM in Philly to pieces, and kind of said that how disappointed that they were in what he did there. So essentially, to me, like when he was fired, they had a pretty good prospect pool, and there's a lot of things that they have now that was really from his tenure. But look at what they've done now; they haven't really gotten much further ahead. I know a big part of that too was his reluctance to play young Carter Hart, of course, who at the time was still, in his rookie year, trying to go up and down between the minors. Many felt he should be given a chance to run with the ball between the pipes, and Hextall was reluctant to do that. But Bobby Clarke did mention when they had the second overall pick, when they selected Nolan Patrick behind Nico Hischier, that none of the scouts wanted Nolan Patrick. They all wanted Cale Makar, is what he said. Now, I had previously heard that they actually wanted Miro Heiskanen, but of course Heiskanen and Makar went 3-4, and of course both are stud defensemen now on big contracts that are, real top young players in the NHL, whereas, Patrick's still trying to find his way here and has had a lot of issues with injuries and different things and hasn't really panned out to the hype of a number 2 pick, at least not as of yet. And it seems unlikely that he probably really ever will be that high-end talent that they might have thought. But essentially, a lot of people think that the reason he really went on and shredded Hextall was the fact that the Flyers are having a down season. Ownership is probably not very happy. They likely are looking to do maybe a rebuild or, certainly a retool here. And maybe he felt the need to kind of do some damage control to make sure that by making Hextall look bad, that he's making Chuck Fletcher look better or good. I'm not sure what the intent was. It just seems kind of odd to really shred him like that. This many years after everything was done, because this was obviously from a few years back now. But the Flyers are in a mess, and ownership likely isn't happy, and it very well might come down to whether or not Fletcher is the guy to continue on and to take this team in a new direction or in a rebuild. And obviously, Clark's like trying to make him look better than what he would otherwise, I guess. So it's kind of confusing. Now, we're going to pause for a moment and acknowledge our channel sponsor, Manscaped. Top Shelf Hockey is proud to be sponsored by Manscaped. And guess what? Hockey fans are buzzing because hockey is back. Want to know what else is buzzing? The Lawnmower 4.0 from our friends at Manscaped, who are the global leaders in male grooming, trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. I highly recommend the Performance Package 4.0, which includes their new state-of-the-art Lawnmower 4.0, as well as some other great features. The lawnmower itself has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multifunction switch that can engage as a travel lock, gives you the ability to turn on an LED spotlight as well for a more precise shave. Also, as I've mentioned on numerous occasions before, Manscaped is about much more than just a trimmer. They have everything, all aspects covered in male grooming, including some great formulations like their brand new ultra premium body wash to keep you smelling great all day long. It's certainly a big hit here. I absolutely love it. They also have other exfoliators and gels to keep all aspects of your grooming needs covered. I highly recommend you check out manscaped.com. Use promo code TSH for 20% off and free shipping. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com using promo code TSH. All right, so thanks very much for watching that promotional content. I do greatly appreciate it. I certainly recommend you check out their website. As I mentioned in the promo, all kinds of new products recently that you really should be checking out. They've got you covered in all aspects of male grooming. Now, as I mentioned, the latest trade rumors, we have a few teams we want to take a look at here today. One, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, trying to do a three-peat. Elliot Friedman makes mentions in his latest 32 Thoughts column that they may have interest in a player like Lawson Crouse. I know Jeff Merrick on their 32 Thoughts segment on the Hockey Night in Canada segment made mention that the Lightning apparently have had interest in this player for some time, and clearly he's a big body guy that can play physical, has some offensive talents that would be a good fit for the Lightning to add some extra depth. We know he's a pending, expiring contract with the Arizona Coyotes. He's very likely moved, given the talent. The Lightning are not the only team, though, that's been linked to Lawson Crouse. He's also been linked to the Boston Bruins as well. Except between Merrick and Friedman, those are the two teams that they've kind of linked this player to. So we'll see. Certainly like an under the radar kind of guy. Doesn't get a lot of attention playing in Arizona. Not a big superstar, but an excellent depth piece that could be of great use here for either of those clubs or other teams heading into the Stanley Cup playoffs. Now, the other interesting comment here from Elliot Friedman in his 32 Thoughts column was regarding Max Domi. Now, of course, he talks about the fact that the Bruins have signed Tuukka Rask, and other things that the Bruins have done, and he wonders if Max Domi might be a fit there. Now, we've known all season that there's a possibility that Domi could be on the move, even dating back to the offseason. There was speculation that he might not even start the year in Columbus, but he did have a big shoulder surgery last offseason and didn't start the season on time. So before a trade was ever going to likely come to be, he was going to have to get back on the ice and be able to play and show that he was healthy and what he could do. Columbus is likely going to be making some additional trades here to kind of take this team further into a rebuild, would be my guess going into the offseason. You have to wonder about the future of Patrick Laine as well. But when it comes to Domi to the Bruins, if you think about it, Domi's certainly not afraid to play that rough style, and obviously would be, I think, a good fit there in Boston if he can be at his absolute best, especially if they do end up trading Jake DeBrusk. Maybe that's a situation where they could, maybe trade two younger players. I mean, Domi's still not all that old. The Bruins have made it known they wanted a player of similar value, of similar, age back in a DeBrusk trade. Or a really high-end prospect, something like that. And if they do make a trade with Columbus, I don't know if they would accept that as a deal, but certainly Domi is, like DeBrusk, a couple years removed from some real high-end numbers that he put up in Montreal. Like I said, not afraid to drop the gloves, not afraid to play physical, certainly plays a lot bigger than what he is. Could be a good fit there, and it could be a situation where they might be able to get him from Columbus for DeBrusk and kind of do a swap there. Not to say that it would be a 1-for-1 or anything like that, but it makes you wonder with Friedman's comments if that might be where he's thinking they might be heading. Now, when it comes to the Maple Leafs, there's a recent article here in The Athletic. It was a collaboration effort between James Myrtle and Saad Yousuf, who covers the Dallas Stars, talking about the possibility of a John Klingberg trade to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, we know that there's a really high probability that Klingberg will be traded. He's a pending unrestricted free agent, 29-year-old right-shot defenseman with some pretty good offensive instincts, and not really considered to be so much an elite level talent right now, but even a few years back, he was always in the top 5 or 6 for Norris Trophy voting there for a few years. And I think he might be able to get back to that if he had the right situation. I mean, this year is a little bit of a down year for him, but he's also going to get used to a new defense partner this year. Played with Lindell for a long time. This year they've mostly had him with Ryan Suter. So certainly an adjustment period in that sense. And the Stars themselves have been a team that's been very inconsistent. So, he kind of fits in to where the team is heading. Now, when it comes to a potential trade, though, you have to wonder what they're going to want in return, and they're probably going to be looking for a couple of assets to help get younger. Now, the team already has obviously stud defenseman Amir Heiskanen under long-term contract, which is a big reason why they can't afford to keep Klingberg here in the mix. They also have a young defenseman like a Thomas Harley on the up-and-coming rise here, who's going to be hopefully another good top 4D for them. They still have Esa Lindell. They have Suter for the next few years. It makes sense that Klingberg doesn't really fit their future plans, especially at the kind of price tag he's looking for. Now, if another team besides the Leafs comes calling and are willing to offer an extension that Klingberg really likes, that could certainly up his value. It might take a team like Toronto out of the mix, because I think if the Leafs were going to do that kind of deal, it would pretty much have to be a rental situation given where their cap is at for the future. Now, with the Leafs, they talk about some potential, what it could look like, I guess, some trade options for Dallas and Toronto. You have to wonder, could we see a family reunion in Dallas? Could the Leafs consider moving Nick Robertson? I mean, they'd have to include probably one of their top 3 or 4 prospects is what Myrtle came to the conclusion on. As much as Leaf fans might not want to see any of these guys be traded, if you want to really upgrade your D for really enhancing your odds on a playoff run and a better shot at a Stanley Cup, that's what it's likely going to take if you're going to do that. Whether it's Nick Robertson or Rodion Amirov or Topi Niema or, when it comes to maybe even Timothy Liljegren. And it's hard to say what they'd want in return. Dallas may not necessarily want a defenseman, though. They wouldn't necessarily probably be opposed to someone like either be Niemela or Liljegren, but like I said, they have a pretty good crop of D already. They may prefer a forward, because they do have a lot of question marks in the forward group moving forward with all the expiring contracts and older vets that they have there, whether it be Amirov or Robertson. Matthew Nyes, it could be one of those guys, and you might have to include a guy like Travis Dermott or Justin Hall to make the money work. So, if they took a guy like Dermott, who's obviously a fair bit younger than Hall, and you throw in one of those top prospects, I mean, that might be a pretty good package to get Klingberg and would really shore up the right side of the blue line. Obviously, to go into like the playoffs again with like a Muzzin Hall second pair probably isn't really ideal. They do have Rasmus Sandin, but certainly if they can have him on the third pair, probably be even better suited here. So, it's hard to say exactly what happens. The Leafs are likely going to try to add here at the blue line, but they may not be able to add anything too substantial. The key thing here is that Klingberg, out of all the defense, doesn't make a ton of money. He's only making $4.25 million. Dallas could probably retain a little bit of that salary, and if you take away an existing roster player to help make the money work, it's doable for sure. So would the Leafs want to, mortgage a little bit of their future for a run? I think they would, because they're certainly in win now mode. They have that window while they have the big four group of forwards that are making tons of money together. They have a tight cap situation. They have the Jack Campbell expiring contract. I mean, I don't think Campbell's going anywhere anytime soon, but getting him re-signed is going to be a challenge. I think that's fair to say. And they have a lot of question marks like they do every offseason on keeping the band together and how hard it's going to be. So they need to go for it every chance they get. And adding a guy like Klingberg could be the missing ingredient here. So let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments, especially if you're a Leaf fan. I'd love to know your thoughts. If you're going to get John Klingberg for the playoffs, would you be willing to move a guy like Travis Dermott and one of your top 3 or 4 prospects, likely Robertson or Amirov or one of those, to make it happen? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments and we'll discuss further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.